If I could go back and do it all over again, I would probably be way more specific than we started out, and I think that would probably have made us even more successful than we were. Podcast Growth Nation, today, for episode number 166, is niching down too much actually a bad thing? The reason I want to do this episode today is because I am in a lot of podcast Facebook groups, and recently somebody asked a question about, is it bad to niche, and is it bad to overly cater to your ideal listener avatar because it alienates some people? And that was somebody's question. And it might sound like a silly question. It might sound like a great question, depending on where you are in your journey and where you are with your awareness and all that happy jazz. And essentially, my answer and everybody else's answer in there was something along the lines of, that's exactly what you want to happen. That is exactly what you want to happen. You don't necessarily want your podcast to be for everyone. It would be different if this podcast was for speakers and coaches and entrepreneurs and content creators and podcasters. So here, this is the syntax example I usually use. We have a personal development podcast that also has some areas of comedy. You can imagine how that podcast is versus we have a comedy podcast that also has some areas of personal development. Those are completely different podcasts, and they're going to serve completely different audiences. And if you're looking for personal development all the time, it's not going to be for you if it's comedy first. If you're looking for comedy first all the time, it's not going to be for you if personal development is first. I think that's just kind of the basic. That's kind of what you need to start with. Dunkin' Donuts is usually it started out as blue collar. I'm in Massachusetts. I'm in New Hampshire now, but born and raised in Massachusetts. A lot of Dunkin' Donuts in Massachusetts. I don't know if that's where it started, but it was catered to the blue collar, hard worker, up early, outside, all that stuff. Not super nice inside, not super modern. Get your food, get your coffee, and leave. Starbucks, on the other hand, literally was designed as a place where you could go and feel like it was a second home and feel like you could work there. Prices are more expensive. Experience is better. Everything is higher quality. It's essentially for a different audience. And that's okay. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think that's actually necessary. So the answer to the question that person asked in the Facebook group is, you quite literally want to alienate people. The opposite of, well, not even the opposite. It's the same thing. You want people to self-identify. A, heck yes. B, hell no. That's it. And your podcast is not for everyone. And it shouldn't be for everyone. Because by definition, you're not solving a unique enough problem. So we're going through group coaching right now, our Next Level Podcast Accelerator. I just finished up my 2 sessions, realistically 4 sessions, that's podcast specific. Now we're getting ready to go into the business stuff. And the thing I told people is, most of you need to niche down more and more and more and more. Inspirational stories, motivational stories, overcoming adversity, that is not enough. It just isn't specific enough. You're so open to anybody that nobody is really self-identifying as this is specifically for me. But it goes back to what we talked about last week, where we talked about the scarcity and the fear and that type of stuff that comes with decisions like this. You're quite literally saying, I would rather have a bigger piece of a smaller pie rather than a smaller piece of a bigger pie. You want a big piece, bigger, of a smaller pie. There's less people that are going to consume your niche, but you might have a bigger opportunity to connect and collect more of them. Where if you're just a podcast that's about feel-good content, there's a bunch of those out there, and you're going to get a very, very, very small piece of a much bigger pie, and unfortunately, it's probably not going to move the needle. So at the end of the day, we have to focus on 3 things. Who do we help? How do we help them? And what do we help them with? If your podcast is about mental health, who are you helping? What are you helping them with? And then how are you helping them? Are you helping them through weekly solo episodes where you dive into vulnerable stories and share the transformation that came with that? Awesome. Are you helping them by having guests that highlight their stories? Okay. Are you having experts on that have tips and tricks and tactics? Okay. But we need to know that. It needs to be very clear that when you tune into this podcast, you are getting this, this, and this. I'm going to help you solve this problem in this way for this person. Because those are the 3 checkpoints that we kind of have to get through. So we have a client who has a podcast that is for high school athletes. That is the demographic. Now, are professional athletes going to listen? Nope. Are college athletes going to listen? Nope, most likely not. They would get value from it, but it's not for them. Is an elementary school athlete going to listen? No, it's not for them either. It's for high school athletes. Yeah, it's a very small niche, but you can get really well known in a very small niche if you do it right. That's one of the things that I think a lot of people get lost in is we forget that how much branding and marketing and positioning and reputation mean. When I talk to podcasters, they say, okay, you're an expert on podcasting because you've done so many episodes, but whatever. I don't really consider myself an expert at anything, I don't think, but I appreciate the kind words. That's my positioning. That's my branding. That's my reputation because I've done so many episodes. I didn't realize that is exactly the way it was going to work, but this person could really build a brand catering to high school athletes, speak to high school students, and then from there, they could have high school retreats where they have a speaker in and they do different athletics and whatever, right? There's a whole bunch of things you can do from that. That's kind of how it has to start. You have to pick one lane and you have to live in that lane, be known for that thing, and then kind of take it from there. One of my favorite questions to ask new clients who don't know what direction to go in yet is, if I was going to pay you $10,000 to teach me something, what would you teach me? Let's start there. And if your podcast isn't about that, that's a potential long-term concern depending on how you want to do this. Now, I'm not saying it has to be. Maybe you're out there saying, I don't really have any skills like that yet, like I was in that position when I started. You're not going to pay me $10,000 to teach you anything. And in the beginning, you kind of have to do what you got to do. So I did fitness coaching in the beginning. I did mindset coaching in the beginning. Mindset was part of the brand. Fitness was part of the brand, but I didn't think I was going to be a fitness coach online. That wasn't what I thought was going to happen. But I had to do that because we weren't specific enough. We just weren't. We were helping you raise your awareness and become more successful. And that just isn't enough. That isn't enough. Now, we did really well. 2017, 2018, 2019 were different times. We did really well, but if I could go back, I would make it way more specific and way more niched. Even now, Next Level University is not as niched as it could be. We're okay with that. I don't care. I know we can make it more niched. I don't care. But what we're really leaning into is our separator, our differentiator is we do an episode every day. So if you want to get to the next level and you are really as committed to your growth as you say you are, tune in tomorrow because we are literally here every day to help you get there. And not 1-minute motivational episodes, 10, 15, 20, 25-minute episodes. That's our differentiator. That is kind of our niche. If you're a super high performer who wants to get better every day, there's not that many podcasts out there for you. You got to find a different one every day, right? If they're dropping an episode every week. That's our differentiator. But that's not necessarily niching. Niching is deciding on what your lane is. And then I think the other things like that differentiator is me painting lines in the lane or having signs next to that lane. It's different. It's different. If I could go back and we didn't have a brand and we didn't have a business and we didn't have a reputation, I would probably name it something like Everyday Elite. And that would be the podcast. And it would be the place to come every single day to get a little bit better on your way to your dream. Something like that. And everything would shift. And that's very, very, very niche. This is a podcast for high performers. If you are not in a good space and you're somebody who wants you want maximum results with minimal effort, this is not the place for you. We are hardcore, boom, boom, boom. That's niched. You can imagine the complete opposite is this is a podcast for everyone. No matter where you are, who you are, what you want, what you don't, how much work you want to put in, how much work you don't, this is the place for you. Way too open, right? Way too open. So if I could go back and do it over, I would probably change everything. Now, it's worked out and I'm glad and I love what we're doing and the way we're doing it. So I don't think it would be as fulfilling to do it in that other way. But this is a really good example. This podcast is for podcasters. If you're not a podcaster, I do not expect you to listen. Now, if you want to become one, that makes sense. But this is for you if you're a podcaster. If you have a podcast about parenting, it's for parents or people who aspire to be or are about to be. That's fine. If it's for mechanics, that's something. If it's for contractors, that's something. That is essentially what you want to build. Now, here's the reason. This is the reason under it that I think a lot of us don't really get to a place of understanding because it took me a long time to get here. You need to make a name in your niche. It's way easier to make your name in a specific niche than it is a massive one. So again, personal development. I am definitely at this point probably known more for podcasting than personal development, even though I have a podcast that has 2,200 episodes about personal development. And I've been interviewed 1,000 times on personal development. The podcast niche is just more specific and there's less competition. There's just not that many competitors. Compared to personal development, there's a bunch. Might be the same for you. Don't think of it as expanding. Think of it as deepening. You don't have to expand. You have to build a really, really, really solid foundation and then build that up straight. And that is your niche, and that is your positioning, and that is your reputation. And that can become your differentiator. Think of somebody right now who, if I said, hey, go find somebody to help you with your car, you have somebody in mind. Go find somebody to help you cook. You have somebody in mind. Help you get in better shape. You have somebody in mind. There's probably somebody in your life who is kind of branded themselves as that. We want to do the same thing because so much of podcast success is unconscious.
Hey, I wanted to give my experience working with Kevin and the rest of the Next Level University team. It has been such a seamless relationship. He is so easy to work with, Kevin, and he gives you all the information you need, but doesn't overwhelm you. He's also meets you where you're at. So whatever you want to do, he'll make it work. And it's just, there's no stress, there's no drama. And everybody else that I've worked with has been patient with me because I am not technologically savvy. So they've been helpful and patient and just encouraging, and it's just been a fantastic experience. I highly, highly recommend working with them.
Somebody might not be ready to work with you or listen to you or subscribe right now. They just have to remember what it is that you do and the problems you solve and how you make them feel, and then eventually they might come back. I can't tell you how many times we've had somebody lurking on the outside of the community for years until they join and they say, well, I'm ready now. Something happened now. And I knew all along, if I was going to sign up for something, it was going to be with you guys. That's good positioning. So there's a difference between niching and positioning and reputation and branding and all of that. Niching is deciding what category you want to be in and how specific you want to be. All that other stuff is how you show up in that category. And I think that's a really important understanding for us all to have. I would argue that most people are not niched enough. And I would put it this way. If there's a problem with your niching, it's most likely not because you're too niched. Very rarely do I ever meet somebody who is too niched. It just doesn't really happen. It's just one of those things where we overswing the other way because we think more people equals better. Not necessarily. Not if those people do not value what you have, what you're doing, what you're talking about. I had a client one time who she said, I want to switch the direction of the podcast. I was talking to all sorts of service providers, doctors, dentists, chiropractors, anybody in that type of service delivery. I just want to talk to dentists. And I said, I love that. And your listens are going to go down, but I'm willing to bet you'll probably make more money coaching, retreats, that type of stuff. Because you're talking to less people, but you're talking more to less people. That's the takeaway in this episode. That's why niching is so important. Yes, you're talking to less people, but you're talking more to those less people. You're talking deeper. You're talking more personally. They get it. It's for them. Everybody else who it's not for should go find another podcast. That's the way it works. That's how we can increase our conversion rate. And that's how we can get to the place where our audience self-identifies. Our audience only self-identifies if they first identify as, this is the podcast for me. So that is a question that I saw in their Facebook group, and I wanted to jump in here and do kind of a deep dive answer into it, because it might seem scary to say, well, I'm going to kind of keep some people on the outside. That's exactly what you're supposed to do. That's exactly what you're supposed to do. If they want to listen, they can. It's not like you're putting a chain link fence up, but you are with your messaging, deciding this is for this type of person. You are with your titles, with your guests, with all of that stuff. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing. It'll allow them to go find a podcast that's best for them, because your podcast is not what's best for everybody. Just like this podcast, if you're not a podcaster, is essentially useless to you. Yes, I talk about speaking sometimes, that all connects, but I don't expect this podcast to be massive. I mean, if we think about it, right now there's 450,000 podcasts, let's say hypothetically. If I had every single podcaster listening to this, the odds of that are zero. That's never going to happen. But I'd have 450,000 listens per episode. That's pretty good, right? That's pretty darn good. But then if we just do the numbers after that, it's just a numbers game. So 10% would be 45,000, 1% would be 4,500, and then 0.1% would be 450. Like, it's just a numbers game at that point. The market size is not huge, necessarily. It's not a very big market. But it's a very specific market. And then last thing I'll say before we get out of here, the other piece that I think is important to understand is it's not just about the podcast. This is where things get wonky. The podcast creates opportunity for you to connect with other people. And you have to make sure that you're in your niche when you connect with these other people, because that's what you're going to be known for. So it's not even just about, I'm going to have people that listen to me when I talk about blank. It's also, I'm going to have guests that come on that see me as blank. As a guest, the hosts are going to see me as blank. When I have the opportunity to network, people are going to see me as this. If somebody ever has an opportunity and they need someone, this is the opportunity that they think I can help them with. You're just branding yourself as, if you have this problem, I am the person who can help. But it's not just about the podcast. I can't tell you how many times I get messages from people who say, hey, one of my friends or somebody I was guesting with has questions about podcasting. Can I send them your way? Sure, yeah. I'm happy to answer all their questions, because I branded myself. I positioned myself. That's my reputation at this point, as the podcaster, podcast coach, boom, boom, boom. So it's not just about this. When you and I are here together, it's about all the things that happen after that. And it's about how other people introduce you. That's a really good tell. If when somebody introduces you, they don't know how to introduce you, they could just be bad at introductions, so I'll throw that out there. Or you're just not specific enough yet. And if you're not specific enough, they don't know how to introduce you, which also means they don't know how to refer you. If I have somebody who needs exactly what it is that you do, and I cannot find a way to convince them to send you a message or whatever it is, that's a niche problem. That's a reputation problem. That's a branding problem. All of those, right? All of those. So my challenge to you is to get even more specific. We onboarded a new client recently, and we went through and I said, all right, we're going to come up with your 10-word description. I know you already have one, but it needs to be more specific. And it got way, way, way more specific. In the beginning, it was something along the lines of helping entrepreneurs overcome mindset limitations through motivational and inspirational stories. Like, that's already somewhat specific, right? And I was like, it's just not specific enough. There's too many of those. You need to differentiate yourself. And eventually it got to the place where it was, again, I don't remember the exact thing off the top of my head, but it was something along the lines of helping entrepreneurs unlock their inner world so they can grow their external worlds or something. Okay, what does that mean? That means on this podcast, it's for entrepreneurs. It means that we're not going to be talking about sales. We're not going to be talking about marketing. We're not going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about the inside stuff that affects that stuff. It means there's going to be mindset. It means there's going to be conversations about happiness and fulfillment and confidence and limiting beliefs and imposter syndrome, all of that. Essentially, we're saying if you're looking for growth strategies for your business, this is not the place. If you're looking for growth strategies for the person internally who is running the business and who is holding the business back, this is the place for you. This is the podcast that helps business owners work so much on themselves that their businesses start to see a difference because of it. That's the podcast. So this is not going to be for somebody who's arrogant. It's not going to be for somebody who doesn't think they need help, somebody who's not into growth, somebody who just wants to talk about numbers and strategies and tactics. It's not for them. This is for somebody who knows the importance of the inner work. This is somebody who is probably already problem aware. They know there is a problem and they're looking for a solution to it. That's a whole nother conversation that we can have at some point. But that's just an example. Helping entrepreneurs overcome mindset blocks by having deep conversations and stories of motivation and inspiration, that's just not enough. It's not enough. We need more specific. We help entrepreneurs. We help entrepreneurs do what? Become successful internally so they can become successful externally. Okay, how do we do that? Through expert interviews and transformational stories of ourselves. Cool. And even that's like version 1. That'll get more specific and more specific and more specific. It never really ends because then you learn about your audience and then you say, oh, okay, it's not just entrepreneurs, it's high-level entrepreneurs or seasoned entrepreneurs. That's completely different. One word changes everything about your 10-word description. Everything. If this podcast was for podcasters who have been in the business or in the space for 5 years plus, this podcast is completely different. But I don't want it to be that. I want it to be for as many podcasters as possible. But even that could be niched down even more, and that is an example of that. All right, cool. If you feel like you do not know where to niche, you don't know where you're at in terms of that process, I'll have my link below for a free 30-minute podcast breakthrough session. We can jam on this. We can do the 10-word description, all of that stuff. We can do that together. And if you're looking for a group of podcasters who are on a similar journey and focused on getting to the next level, we have a private Facebook group. It is called Podcast Growth Nation. We'll have the link below as well. Also, we have another round of the Next Level Podcast Accelerator starting in a couple months. If you're interested, reach out. I'd love to talk to you about it, answer any questions you have. The goal of it is to level up yourself, to level up your podcast, and then turn your podcast into a business and actually understand what to do. So that's the thought process, is you'll leave with the habits, the awareness, the strategies, and the tactics to turn your podcast into a business. That is the ultimate goal. Am I guaranteeing you're going to make money in it immediately? No. But I do believe you will have everything you need to do it, especially the habits. You know us, we're big on habits. So I don't know if the landing page is up yet. I think it might be. Team, can we have the link for that in the show notes? The Next Level Podcast Accelerator, next group. I appreciate that very much. All right. I hope for you are understanding that niching is not only a suggestion, but probably an obvious choice. It is a necessity. It is a necessity. I would much rather you have 50 people listening who know exactly what it is you're talking about and want your stuff than 150 people listening where 10 of them care. This is a vanity metric type conversation. It's not all about listens. It's about aligned listens. And it's really hard to measure that unless you're properly niched. Okay. Until next week, keep on crushing it. Keep on podcasting. And I will talk to you all then.